In a peaceful city, a massive kaiju wreaks havoc, prompting the defense force to intervene. The 3rd Division engages the kaiju with powerful weapons, and a girl defeats it using a cannon. Afterwards, Kafka assists in cleaning up the aftermath and collects a sample of the kaiju. An accident occurs during the cleanup, highlighting the risks of their job. Kafka feels pressured to work quickly. Unexpectedly, Kafka learns he'll be transferred to a different job due to staffing shortages. The next day, he meets Ichikawa, who aspires to join the defense force. Ichikawa questions why Kafka gave up on his dream, frustrating Kafka, but prompting him to assist Ichikawa during their work. As they finish cleaning up for the day, Kafka is surprised when Ichikawa thanks him. He's even more surprised by Ichikawa's gratitude. When Ichikawa mentions the defense force's age limit, Kafka feels sad. Ichikawa tells Kafka he can quit if he wants, but Kafka appreciates Ichikawa's understanding. Kafka realizes Ichikawa is kinder than he thought. Their conversation is cut short when a Yoju monster attacks. Kafka saves Ichikawa from the monster just in time and urges him to run for help, knowing Ichikawa's dream of joining the defense force can't happen if he's injured. Reluctantly, Ichikawa leaves as Kafka leads the monster away. Kafka thinks of his friend Mina and their dream of joining the defense force, feeling distant from it now. He tries to fight the monster but gets hurt. Ichikawa saves him, making Kafka first angry but then grateful. Remembering his past failures, Kafka feels bad about him and gets angry as Ichikawa is in danger. Suddenly, Mina and her team arrive to help. Mina assists Kafka, who feels alone but happy to see Ichikawa. Ichikawa praises Kafka's bravery, and Kafka thanks him for his honesty. However, another monster appears, causing fear. Ichikawa is surprised, and Kafka tries to calm him. An old man arrives, asking for the defense force, frightening Kafka and Ichikawa. Thinking of Mina, Kafka knows he must fight the monsters. Meanwhile, Mina prepares to protect the city from a monster at the hospital. We see that Mina teases Kafka playfully, leaving him embarrassed and secretive. But Mina surprises him with gratitude, emphasizing their unity. Amid preparations to fight the kaiju, a citywide alarm causes panic. An old man fears Kafka, prompting Ichikawa's suggestion of a smile, which backfires. While helping the old man, Kafka accidentally causes damage and shocks himself. Ichikawa assures them of defense force help. Kafka's attempts to flee result in chaos and uncontrolled transformations. Despite concerns, Ichikawa emphasizes focusing on immediate danger. Kafka envisions fighting alongside Mina, but resolves to stand by her, revealing his human face. The defense force arrives, surprised by the destroyed kaiju, as Mina comforts a frightened girl. Concerns arise about the kaiju that saved the girl's mother. 3 months later, news arrives naming the kaiju, Kaiju number 8. While Kafka's friends assume its demise, Ichikawa ponders Kafka's escape and the ongoing search. Their boss interrupts with mail, celebrating Ichikawa's success in the first round of defense force tests. Ichikawa checks Kafka's results, finding good news and hurrying off happily. Recognizing this as Kafka's last chance to join the defense force, their friends celebrate. Ichikawa excitedly tells Kafka of his success, but is dismayed to find him in kaiju form. Kafka reverts back, unaware of his transformation. Ichikawa warns him about TV coverage and advises caution. They return to the hospital and create alibis. Despite Ichikawa's expectation of Kafka's happiness, Kafka reveals his ongoing failure in the second round. Ichikawa worries about Kafka's transformation, but Kafka insists on taking the tests, determined by his age and hard work. Ichikawa agrees to support him. As they prepare, Ichikawa informs them of approaching cleaners. Relieved by his success, Kafka gets ready for the next tests. 10 days later, at the Defense Force's base, they encounter soldiers from the Self-Defense Force. Kafka, eager to check in early, gets into a disagreement with Kikoru, a girl who surprises them with her strength and kaiju sensing abilities, much to Ichikawa's surprise. Ichikawa details their kaiju extermination team. Kikoru marvels at Kafka's strength, suspecting a supersuit. Kafka, as examinee 2032, introduces himself dramatically, but is upset over a parking spot. Initially finding the exam boring, Kikoru now aims to outdo Kafka. Ichikawa scolds Kafka for premature power use. Kafka vows not to use them again to impress Mina. Despite training, Kafka struggles in the exam near the bottom. Kikoru mocks his score, leading Kafka to regret his boasting. Kafka believes he should have used his powers, but Ichikawa disagrees. Mina surprises her helper with broader interests than just kaiju. Izumo stands out for his promise, with Ichikawa ranking him second. Kagari leads the list, highly regarded in the Japan Ground Self-Defense Force. Many applicants are from top universities, possibly explaining Kafka's struggles. Kikuro shines as the greatest prodigy, admired by the top contenders. Despite doubts, Kafka vows to surpass Kikuro. Vice Captain Hoshina surprises Kafka by revealing they must not just exterminate, but also stop the kaiju in the next exam phase. During the exam, a formidable kaiju attack is thwarted, prompting excitement among the top contenders. Equipped with Zumo tech suits made from kaiju materials, they undergo testing, with impressive results for some. Kikuro surprises everyone with a score of 46%, while Kafka's remains at 0, causing concern. Despite doubts, the final exam stage begins, involving combat against kaiju in an urban setting, with high stakes and intense danger. During the exam, candidates face a kaiju attack, showcasing Zumo tech suits' effectiveness. Kikuro's 46% score contrasts with Kafka's 0, raising concern. In the final stage, combat against kaiju begins. Kikuro's swift defeat impresses, while Kafka struggles. Encouraged by Kafka, they assist others, with Kafka guiding Izumo to victory. Kafka regrets undermining himself. Later, Kafka shares his kaiju experience to improve. However, gravely injured by a kaiju, he fails the exam. Despite this, Kafka's determination surprises everyone, including Mina. Kafka persists in the test despite a broken leg. Hoshina allows him to continue, warning he might need protection. Kafka suggests Ichikawa go alone, but Ichikawa refuses, carrying Kafka on his back. Shinomiya defeats the kaiju alone, including the tough Hanju. People admire Shinomiya's skill, but Kafka feels frustrated by her speed. They all agree survival is crucial. Hoshina praises Shinomiya and reveals she is the director's daughter. With the drones off, they start helping the injured candidates when something strange interrupts them. Suddenly, a new kaiju appears, attacking Shinomiya fiercely and leaving her badly injured. Surprisingly, the defeated kaiju begin to revive. Ichikawa urgently urges Kafka to flee. Despite her injuries, Shinomiya remains resilient, shielding her heart to survive. The new kaiju tries to communicate with Shinomiya, indicating a significant threat. Despite Shinomiya's efforts to fight back, the kaiju continues to harm her, causing numerous injuries. Meanwhile, Hoshina detects abnormalities in Shinomiya's vital signs and starts investigating. Sadly, the defeated kaiju start coming back to life. They quickly activate shields to protect everyone, and drones are sent out to record the situation. Mina calls for help from Hoshina to address the danger. Despite the evacuation order, Senomiya courageously battles the kaiju, but sustains serious injuries. Her fight is captured on camera, alerting Mina and Hoshina to the danger. Despite a broken arm, Shinomiya persists. Meanwhile, another threat looms, and Kafka, who can transform into a kaiju, shields Shinomiya and defeats the creatures. He asks her to keep his secret and praises her bravery. However, Ichikawa interrupts their conversation, reprimanding Kafka. They find Shinomiya unconscious and injured from the battle. The second-in-command arrives to find none of the main individuals present. They discover 3 returning to base, but Hoshina suspects Shinomiya was not involved in the battle, given a past incident. Hoshina senses a connection between the 2 events. Meanwhile, Kafka and Ichikawa are praised for protecting Shinomiya. Shinomiya surprises Hoshina by revealing her victory against the Hanju. After swiftly defeating the kaiju, Kafka anxiously awaits his test results. Feeling uncertain and blaming Ichikawa for pushing him, he nervously anticipates the verdict. Successful candidates, including Ichikawa, gather in the defense office. Izumo talks with Kaguragi, not surprised by the success, but noticing Kafka's absence. Group asks about Kafka, but before Izumo can respond, Shinya enters and receives praise. They discuss their shared challenge. Meanwhile, Ichikawa meets Iharu. Mina arrives and asks Shinomiya to speak for the candidates. Shinomiya receives a certificate but feels unhappy, knowing she did not defeat the threats alone, and wondering why Kafka is not recognized for saving her. Suddenly, Kafka appears, bringing relief and joy, especially to Shinomiya. In a flashback, defense officers discuss Kafka's failure, but Mina defends him. Hoshina interrupts, showing mixed feelings about Kafka. Despite initial doubts, Hoshina acknowledges Kafka's altruism and approves him as a cadet. In the present, Mina motivates recruits, but Kafka interrupts confidently, addressing her by her first name. Mina reprimands Kafka with 100 push-ups for speaking out. Hoshina finds it amusing, hinting at a deeper relationship between Mina and him. Mina leaves, surprising Hoshina with her smile, suggesting a complex bond. Hoshina lets Kafka pass the test due to suspicions about his mysterious nature. Kafka confides in Shinomiya, promising not to harm him. They train as defense officers, striving to surpass their own records. Kafka shares his progress proudly, amusing Shinomiya. They bond after training, while Shinomiya admires Mina's strength. Shinomiya learns Mina's routine. The group discusses their motivations, with Mina as a common influence. Kafka surprises them with a childhood promise to Mina. Later, the team trains intensely, catching Hoshina's attention. Hoshina speculates Kafka's motivation, surprising him. Kafka expresses his desire to stand by Mina, upsetting Hoshina. Before they can discuss further, the alarm signals their first mission.